Okay, so we've got breaking news. It's now time to buy stock in Canadian t-shirt companies.
Canadian t-shirt company?
Yep, that's the subject of today's video. Maybe hats, shoes, all of it. Basically what's going on is the US government has officially announced a travel advisory.
Yeah. So have you ever done it before?
Yeah, so essentially, like say during the Iraq situation, and there was the hostilities, you're always worried about backlash against Americans.
I see.
Right?
But now this time, the kind of whole world against America, not just
Actually,
the Middle East.
that is a good point. So, I mean, Trump already started a global trade war against everyone else. So people are already boycotting us. They don't like us as it is. Us meaning Americans. And then this time around, now we're attacking Iran. It's not a good look. And actually, because I remember this, and I want to hear from older Americans as well that remember this. During the first time around was, say, with Iraq, people were putting Canadian flags on their backpacks and stuff like that because it's like, even if there's no travel advisory, you just...
I just buy Canadian. I am Canadian hat.
Yeah.
I am Canadian. She's Canadian. Your T-shirt.
Yeah, drink lots of beer, but everyone drinks beer, I guess, so that's necessarily do it. But
not beer, just when you go to order, no, don't say water. Just say, could you give us water?
Is that how Canadians say it?
Not Canadian. Just change your accent.
Oh, change your accent. Okay. And then if you want to be Canadian, you would say "a" at the end of everything.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, give me some water. A. Yeah. I can't do.
I don't think so.
They don't talk that anymore.
No, I've been in Vancouver for a year.
No one says "a."
I don't think so.
I want to hear from Canadians in chat. So we're making jokes here about Canada, but no, this was actually a serious thing. That the big one was that when Americans traveled over abroad, they just didn't want to have to talk about Bush all the time. The same way, like if you're an American, you go abroad, I don't want to have to defend Trump. So just if you don't want to talk about it whatsoever, just wear a Canadian T-shirt, right? And it's interesting because, like, I was asking Yeji about this. Do Koreans ever feel like you don't want to be Korean when you travel? I mean, like, is there situations where, like, man, I just hate Korea and stuff like that?
No, most of like Western side, when they see the Asian, they just Chinese.
Oh, right. They just think you're all Chinese.
Yeah, all Chinese. They make like racist stuff, like ching ching chong whatever.
Yeah, that's not very nice, of course. So you don't want to deal with that. Like we don't advocate for any of this kind of bad behavior, but the official travel warning is actually serious because we're waiting for what kind of retaliation is Iran going to do, right? And it could be any number of things. We're also worried about, are they going to hit American bases?
Yeah.
Anywhere? So. They didn't say specifically because they asked one of the military leaders, like, how are you making preparations in terms of our bases? Now, from my understanding, at least, you never know the truth on this stuff, but at least the briefing I saw in the Defense Department, they were saying that they did not inform bases ahead of time that we were attacking. It was more like the decision was made so late that, like, as the attacks were basically going on, hey, by the way, we're attacking, be prepared.
Going there right
now.
It's really it's not good.
Do you understand why you'd want to tell people ahead of time so they can?
Yeah, then they can evacuate,
Whatever, right? Yeah. So get your personnel out or just.
General, you say that General Kurilla increased force protection in Iraq, Syria, and Gulf, in those areas. Were they given any advance warning the attacks were coming? And also, Mr. Secretary, when were congressional leaders notified? How long before the attacks took place?
Sir, to your first question, the risk has clearly been rising over the last few weeks in the region. Based on that, and not a particular awareness of this operation, we've made smart decisions to minimize the risk to U.S. forces in the region.
So they were given no advance warning?
No, sir.
And congressional?
They were notified after the planes were safely out. Well, we complied with the notification requirements of the War Powers Act.
After the attacks, they were notified?
They were immediately thereafter. Yes.
Especially for Americans living overseas, are you feeling any sort of pushback of U.S. policy? Because, like, I don't know, because you've lived overseas, right? Do you ever feel like anyone ever asked you about Korea? Hey, what's your country doing? What's your country doing now? Do you ever get these kind of things?
Not really. Never.
Yeah, I'm just asking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's something that, for many Americans, they always talk about how proud they are. We have like a big military and we're really active around the world. But in some ways, it's actually not a great thing because then, as a regular citizen, you just sort of like you're always a representative of your country. So
Well,
I don't always want to talk about that kind of stuff. What's that?
not just USA, every person they have represent their country.
Oh, sure, sure,
Yeah,
sure.
not just USA.
Yeah, it's not usually like for example, true story. So where we are now in the cafe, I went to the bathroom, and true story, the sign had this weird sign. It would said respect the manners of the country. See, this is the sign I was telling you guys about. I'm not kidding. That's what it says. Please use the bathroom cleanly. Please keep the country's manners.
Oh.
Which is kind of interesting because you have
Oh yeah.
certain things that like sometimes when you're here in Korea, it's funny. The bathroom signs are always kind of funny because you never know what people are doing in bathrooms. You don't know. But yeah,
Yeah, I don't want to. No, I don't want to. So
some places.
people,
Yeah.
some people from another country. I'm not sure this they're doing. Still does it. They step on the.
I was just gonna say that. I knew you were gonna say that. I knew you were gonna say that. Yeah,
so
yeah.
that there's a sign.
Please don't
step on and
Yeah.
in their language.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that one for a long time. Sometimes you'll see signs that'll say like, "Please make sure you put the tissue in the garbage," which is kind of funny that you have to say that. But you have to think of it this way though: is that sometimes I'm just using this in terms of travel. Sometimes Americans do things that are embarrassing abroad, right? Any number of things. It's not just Americans. There are
we
many.
used to have ugly Korean in Europe, so there was a sign at the hotel, no Korean. We don't want Korean.
Yeah. No, it's real. It's real.
Point.
Yeah. So, because people are saying like, Chris, what does it have to do with like tourism and what Trump's up to? Is remember, all of your actions are a representation of sort of where you come from. And if someone doesn't have much exposure to wherever country you are, like they sort of think, oh, well, all people must be like that. Always think about the repercussions that Trump is doing because I think there's a lot of Americans out there that love Trump. They think Trump's the most greatest superhuman of all time. But those kind of people don't have passports. They haven't traveled. I'm just being flat. I'm not trying to be mean. And they don't realize the repercussions that this has to, us Americans living abroad. I personally do not like to hear these kind of, situations like, hey, Americans, be careful of any kind of violence or any sort of thing, travel advisory. I also read that, this is from the U.S. Department of State, they were saying like, we're closing our embassy in Israel.
Oh.
It was like Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, and it had this weird thing too that was saying like there are third parties out there where you can exit. Maybe you could go to Jordan, maybe you could go to Egypt, and it gave a really interesting advice from the government was saying if you want to leave, just go anywhere. I thought that was kind of interesting. So
just leave the country.
it doesn't matter like which destination.
Just leave.
Yeah. So like if you have to go to, just for example, if you have to go to, Russia, or if you had to go to Turkey, or if you had to go to Spain, just get the next flight out to anywhere but Israel. I thought that was kind of a interesting way to state it. It was on the website.
So easy, but if you leave there, it's hard to just move to other country.
Well, no, but you don't know people's situation. Like there could be people out there for tourism, for business. There could be people who are sent there by their company. In any number of reasons why someone is there, right? That's what, you never know people's situation, and so these kind of these are small stories. I know the bigger picture is like, hey, is USA going to fight Iran? Is Iran going to fight back? But I always try to bring it back to just the regular person's experience on the ground, right? And right now, people are again given a travel advisory, and I just don't like to see that as an American living abroad. I would prefer that when people look at the American flag, that they think positive thoughts, right? Not
At the airport, you have I like to fast track.
Oh yeah,
my country.
Actually, that's actually That's actually very, very true, right? You want to not be people checking you all the time if you're a danger to their said country or whatever. So this is what Trump is doing right now is ruining our relations. Again, we have a travel advisory out, and I just want to let you know. So please share your thoughts. I do appreciate your time, and we'll catch you all in the next video. So bye.